Hello, it's nice to see you again. We are continuing our Philosophy of Mind course, the topic of eliminative materialism. And within that, eliminative is about so-called propositional attitudes, like beliefs, desires, and other sort of mental states, which can be understood as attitudes towards a proposition. In contrast with other kinds of mental states, which essentially involve qualia or phenomenal properties, phenomenal character, which is often understood as a sort of what is it like feature of mental states. So we are now talking about the first version of eliminative materialism, which is mainly about beliefs and desires, but it can be extended to other propositional attitudes, and in particular, a paper of Paul Churchland, which is called Eliminative Materialism and the Propositional Attitudes. Later on, we may talk about eliminativism about phenomenal states, which involve necessarily qualia, apparently, and against which Daniel Dennett launched an attack in several papers and books. However, now we will concentrate on eliminativism about beliefs and desires and the rest. Okay, so Paul Churchland's thesis is basically that contrary to appearance, we just have no beliefs and desires and wills or volitions, if you want, which is on the face of it quite paradoxical. So if somebody proposes a theory which is so counterintuitive, that definitely needs an explanation. How does he mean that? I mean, how can someone seriously mean that we have no beliefs, we have no thoughts whatsoever? Now, to explain a bit the content of this claim, the general theory in which we frame, in which we use these terms, belief, desire, and other ordinary psychological terms referring to mental state kinds in terms of which we describe our behavior and mental life and so on. And this theory is often called folk psychology in order to somehow emphasize that this is not a scientific theory. This is a theory which we all use in describing our ways of behaving and our understanding and interpreting other persons, human persons with mind behavior. But this is not a scientific psychological theory. So this is the first step, that beliefs and desires in Churchland's usage of the term should be understood as terms or entities which are interpreted or used in terms of our so-called folk psychological theory. So that's one thing. The second is that Churchland proposes that folk psychology is a theory, for once, and secondly, it is a bad theory. And third, from these two premises, he concludes that if folk psychology is a bad theory, then the entities which it uses to explain certain phenomena, i.e. human behavior, cannot be real. So this is how it should be understood, that we have no beliefs, desires, and the rest of the propositional attitudes. Again, these terms and the entities to which they purportedly refer to are terms of a theory, namely the folk psychological theory. However, this theory is wrong, and therefore the terms or entities in terms of which this false psychological theory explains human behavior just non-existent. They are not real. To provide an analogy, think of any scientific theory which the purpose of which is to explain and predict observable phenomena, and which use in explaining and predicting these observable phenomena so-called theoretical entities, the behavior of which are described by certain laws and properties of these theoretical entities. So in terms of the behavior of which the observable phenomena are explained. So a good example would be, of course, microphysics. We all know that certain observable macro phenomena like thermodynamical phenomena, certain relations between temperature, pressure, volume, and changes in these parameters are linked by certain thermodynamical laws, sometimes called phenomenological thermodynamics. However, there is a more extended and better explaining theory, which is laid out, explained in terms of microscopic particles, the movement of which explains why certain macroscopic observable thermodynamical phenomena appear, namely that you heat a certain gas within a certain volume, and then it will and then its pressure will rise, and you probably remember this from high school physics or chemistry. So this is explained by the microscopic, by the behavior of the microscopic particles, which are laid out in the so-called statistical mechanical laws. And moreover, the statistical mechanics is a much better explanatory theory, meaning that it explains much more than the original explanandum was, namely the phenomenological thermodynamical laws. However, nobody have seen these particles, so it's impossible in principle to see the electrons or anyway the gas molecules which are just flying all over in a gas. These are just posited theoretical entities which we posit in order to explain the behavior of the observable macroscopic events and phenomena. Now, I hope I was able to make it clearer, the analogy with folk psychology. So the idea is that folk psychology is an explanatory theory about human behavior. I mean, we explain and predict why people acted as they did on the basis of our assumptions about their beliefs and desires. So for example, I want to catch the last flight from Budapest to Stockholm before the airport closes, and I know that it takes about an hour to get there by taxi, and therefore I just and I know that my plane is leaving about 2 hours, 2.5. So therefore, I just start to proceed towards the airport. So this is an explanation of my behavior in terms of my beliefs and desires, namely my belief that I want to catch the last plane, and my beliefs that it takes an hour to get there, and also a belief about what time it is now. Okay, so the point is that we should understand beliefs and desires and other propositional attitudes as theoretical entities. So in analogy with, say, electrons or molecules of the physical theory. And the third point is that if a theory is a bad theory, by which I mean Churchland means that its predictions are unsuccessful, its explanations are wrong, so it usually mispredicts what happens later on, and its explanations are just somehow not really plausible or are inconsistent with other explanations of other relevant phenomena, then we should think that this theory is bad. And from this, there's a further implication, namely that the theory's theoretical posits, theoretical entities by which we explain the observable phenomena do not exist. So if the electron, our physical theory, which involves electrons, would bring often very bad predictions, then we would think that in reality there are no electrons at all. There may be something else, but not what we describe as electrons. I mean, having a certain mass, having a certain charge, and so on and so forth. So similarly, if we argue that thought psychology is a bad theory for one reason or another, then we can imply from this that the theoretical entities of thought psychology, namely beliefs and desires, just do not exist. That's just an illusion.